What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. This is Sid Sr. speaking, and we are bringing you another Transformers review. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Arcee. So as we always do, let's take a look at that packaging first. We'll just move her back a little bit, bring that packaging forward so we can get a good look at that. So you have right up at the top, you have Arcee, Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Trilogy, Transformers up the side. You have that artwork on the side, which is nice. On the back, you get your product shots. She converts in 15 steps. Warnings down here, sad baby. On the side, she is a deluxe class, and we'll just set that at a bit of an angle there so we can get a look at that artwork. That is nice artwork right there. Up top, Transformers, War for Cybertron K17. And on the bottom, you have your manufacturing information. That's all for the outside packaging. Let's take a look at what came in there. And first, we will start with this insert. Now, this is usually pretty boring, but if you take a close look here, I will show you that how the way she was packaged, it was quite the challenge to get her out. So there was a struggle here to get her out. So the packaging engineers that designed this, they really wanted to make sure she wasn't going to come out without a fight, and they succeeded. So yeah, that was not as much fun as you might think. All right, then the next thing, of course, your little page of warnings. And you get, of course, because she's Kingdom, you do get the sticker. This time around, I got Dinobot again. So I think this makes maybe 5 or 6 of these. So, yay. And then you do get the instructions. All right. The only accessory she comes with is her gun, so we will take a look at that and try to get an up close on that. It is a little bit difficult because it's transparent here, or translucent at least. But there's a pretty good amount of detail on there if you can make it out. And on the other side, and there is a bit of a tab right here that you can use for the vehicle mode storage. All right, so let's bring Miss Arcee in for her close-up. And right off the bat, you can see that really nice face sculpt with those really painted bright blue eyes. Those are actually really pretty. And come down here to the chest, you can see the Autobot symbol, and you can see some detail molded in there. Come down here to her abs, and she does have a bit of a navel there, which is accurate. It's just funny to see it on a robot. Come down here to the legs. Again, good sculpted in, molded in detail there. Pink kneecaps. And then decent amount of detail down here on the legs, and she has nice big heel spurs, which is nice because she does have a bit of a backpack. Take a look at those arms. Again, good detail there. The Arcee's always had these little Princess Leia buns, and I think they pulled them off pretty well on this as well. And we'll take a look at the back, which is pretty much just the car. You can get a little bit of detail back here. Make it out. And then underneath here, not a lot going on in the back. Now, articulation wise, her head is on a mushroom peg, so you're not going to get any side to side or up or down. You do get full 360. And for the shoulders, you actually do get a wide range of motion here, so you can go way up and all the way down. And if the backpack weren't there, you would be able to go all the way around. As it stands right now, though, you just have to get that arm around a little bit like that. At the elbow, you do get a really nice bend, so a lot of range of motion there. And you do get bicep swivel, so you could go all the way around. The wrists, you get wrist swivel, but no wrist rotation, so you do have a good range of motion there as well. So you could really get those in some different poses. She does have waist rotation. And here at the thigh, you get a small degree of upper thigh rotation. And for the hips, it's a disappointing amount of splits. I've seen much better on other figures, but it's enough to still get her in some pretty good poses. And she does kick forward this far and backward that far before you have to start kicking the legs out. So again, not the best range of motion in those hips, but it's enough that you can get her in some good poses. You do have an additional point of articulation here. You have a lower thigh rotation. Now this is primarily for transformation, but you can utilize it for posing. And for the knees, she does have a great ability there to get some really nice bends. Again, this is attributable to the necessity for transformation, but having this double hinge right here can really get her in some good poses. Down here at the feet, again, she has a surprising range of motion. You do get a considerable back, a little bit forward, and she does also have ankle tilt. So overall, the articulation on this figure is pretty darn good. You know, the backpack gets in the way and the hips suffer a little bit, but for the most part, you can get her in some great poses. All right, so let's talk about the different modes that she has. Now, we'll get into the transformation, but first we'll talk about the sled mode, if you want to call it that. So you can take this backpack is pretty much the entire shell of the car. She is a shell former, but you can take this portion right here off and you can create a sled for her, or a hovercraft if you want to call it that. So in order to do that, you're just going to pull right here and you've got these tabs that you just separate and you can spin this around. There's a button right here. You just push this button and that actually releases this portion. Now on my copy, oops, sorry Arcee, you okay? On my copy, this thing comes out pretty easily anyway, and I think a lot of it may just be due to the fact that my thumb hits this button more often than I want to admit, which makes it pretty easy for this to slide out. But all that being said, for the Hovercraft mode, all you want to do is you want to take the wheels and open those up and just keep on opening them. And they do make some really horrible noises. It makes me nervous every time I do it. But then you flip these little flaps up, turn this section in, and then it's on a slider right here. So then you just want to squeeze that down. And then you have Arcee's little hovercraft that she can use. And on the hovercraft itself, you have a peg here and a peg here. And on the bottom of the feet, you have the two smaller ports that you can use for those. So you just plug her into those two slots, or to those two pegs. And let's get that in nice and secure. Work with me a little bit here, Arcee. There we go. And let's get rid of your ankle tilt right there. And plug you in right up front. There we go. And bend the knee. Maybe turn the foot a little bit. And there you have Arcee on her hovercraft. And I think overall that works pretty well. I know I'm getting a lot of overexposure here, guys. Let me bring her in a little bit closer. So I think that looks pretty good. It's a fun little thing that you can do. And of course, I mean, for that accessory, you could give her her gun. And now she's going all pew-pew. Pew-pew? Pew-pew! And yeah, I think that's a pretty good look. Give her a little twist there. Yeah, that's not bad for a shelf. And it does help the minimization of this backpack. She's Arcee. She's always had a big backpack. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. So that's just part and parcel for this figure. Okay, so let's get down to transformation. We'll get all this straightened out. Now, typically for this, if you weren't going to use this, this would still be on her back. So let's kind of get that back in the configuration that it was. Now, this joint, or this little slider right here for me, is pretty tight, especially when it's depressed. So I have to bring in my handy dandy tool and just get up underneath there and slide that enough where I can get a hold of it and I can pull it back out. So yeah, let's go ahead and collapse these back in and pretend that we are starting from this point. So what we need to do here is plug all this back in. And tab it up. So if you're starting from this point, then you will want to untab it from those 2 points. And after having done all of that work, theoretically, you could just turn this 180 degrees and collapse this back down. But I've found for me that this is a little bit of a pain in the butt. So what I do is I remove this and then I put it back on for transformation. But just for fun, let's see if I can actually get it this time. I'm not one for editing videos, so we're going to give this maybe a shot or two, and if it doesn't work, I'm just going to pull this off and then transform it the way I want to. So go ahead and pull. This is on a double hinge back here, so pull this down so it's raised up a little bit above her head, and tilt this out of your way, because you need to tilt this back a little bit as well, enough to clear these wheels. There we go. And get the other one out of there. And then you pull up this grill section and then just collapse that in. Turn her head 180 degrees if you don't want to see it. You don't have to do this. If you want her to have visible face syndrome, then feel free to keep it oriented the way it was. Down here for this section, you're going to lift these up so they're oriented as such. Pull these tabs out and then do the same thing over here. And now you have, back here, you have this slider, this big tab that slider was on, and there's a corresponding hole in her back. This is where I struggle, which is why I normally take this off. But your goal is to try to get those two lined up and get it to fall into her back, which we were able to do that time. Ooh, fingers crossed here, we might be onto something. Once you have this, essentially you have the car mode completed. It's just a matter of cleanup, but now you have to get her all yoga posed and tucked away under here. So you just need to take her arms and tuck those back underneath. And then at this point of rotation, you are going to rotate that leg 180 degrees. Do the same thing over here. And then there are slots in here, hope you can see them, in there that are going to correspond to, or there are tabs, excuse me, that are going to correspond to the slots in her legs. And then you're going to collapse those in and get those legs kind of tucked in there. And then you're going to lift these feet up, bring the legs forward so they're oriented like that. And then you're going to slide these legs, or kind of push them over to the side, and do that on both sides. And then get them tucked under this area right there so you have them like that. Make sure you've got them tucked under on both sides. And now we're in cleanup mode. I can't believe that actually worked without me having to remove that rear end of the car. That's the first time, so pretty happy about that. All right, so again, she's panel-y, she's a shell former. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to clean all this up, but there you have Arcee in her car mode. And she actually does roll really well. I mean, I'll give her credit credit where credit is due. And as far as shell formers go, I mean, she comes together pretty well. So we can take a look at the details in car mode here. So let's start there in the front. You get that nice grille, and then these white accents here in the front. You get that Autobot symbol right there, which is nice. Other than a few gaps right here that annoy me, I think it all comes together pretty well, and you've got good panel lines here that are molded in. I like the look of the covered up wheels with her. I mean, of course, it's also beneficial because if these were wide open, you would see a lot more of the robot, but this also lends well to her look. I think back here, she looks half-baked. They could have done something more back here to cover this up instead of just having all this hanging out. But they did give you pegs for effects, so we'll go over that here shortly. And there you have the right side. And there's the top. I think this is nice. Again, I'm not sure if this is in Earth mode. I'm going to go ahead and say it is in Earth mode. But if it's her Cybertronian mode, why do you have a cockpit? You don't have any humans on Cybertron, but I digress. And there is the yoga pose bottom. Okay, so again, I think she cleans up pretty well. I mean, this is all just a big shell that hides the robot, but I think it looks pretty nice. Something to note in this mode, her antenna here, not entirely sure why, but it is removable. So, you know, if you wanted to remove it, I guess you could. But I don't understand, I don't see the point of that. So, all right, so let's talk about the weapon storage in this mode. It's pretty simple. You have these two tabs here, so take your pick, but if you want the gun facing forward without the handle overhanging the side or the fender of the car, you just plug it in right there. So yeah, it's not elegant, but it is transformer storage. All right, so we can talk about effects real quick here. Not a whole lot of effects on this mode, but you do have it where it counts. So what you can do, I've found, if you bring in a few different styles of effects, I've found that if you try to use these effects right here on either side, they're too close together, so you get a bit of a gap right there. So it's better if you just use the smaller effects and just plug it in right there, and then you get a nice fast RC car, which is pretty cool. I think that looks good. And then of course up here at the top you have these two pegs that if you want to utilize those, she's rushing into battle, or she's, you know, taking fire as she's, you know, rushing into battle, you can do something like that as well. So she does have that ability. That's pretty cool. All right. Now for comparison in robot mode, we'll bring in a couple of different figures here. To start with, what I'll do is I will bring in another figure in this line who essentially has half of the car mode taken off for parts forming. So we'll bring in Cliff Jumper so you can see how she looks next to Cliffy. And I'll bring him in a little closer because we're getting a lot of reflection off of Arcee there. You can see from a size perspective, she's a little bit bigger than Cliffy. Okay, and then just for fun, we'll bring in the twins from the Bayverse. So we'll bring in Arcee and Chromia from the Bayverse, so you can see how she stacks up next to those two. Just a quick note, these two look really good in motorcycle mode, but I hate transforming them. I don't like the way their robot mode looks. So these two are two of the few figures that I have in my collection that I keep in the alt mode. So yeah, we're not using those for robot mode because they just look absolutely horrible and I don't like to transform them. But there she is next to those two. So thank you, ladies. Move you on out of the way. All right, so let's get Arcee transformed back into her robot mode, and we'll bring in some more comparisons at that point. Transformation into the robot mode is pretty easy. Just take that gun off. Take a look underneath here. Grab those legs and just bring them forward to the front a little bit. You can swing them down and then pull them up to disconnect them from those tabs. And reach under here and grab those arms and pull those arms forward. There we go. It's not always the easiest thing to do. And then you're going to give this a little tug to get that tab out of her back. There we go. And at this point, I am going to just go ahead and take this off. It just makes life so much easier for me. So, and because my thumb has already pushed this down, it's already wanting to eject. So push this down and remove that and put it off to the side. Grab this, bring it down, give it a little bit of clearance so you can get those wheels tucked in, and then bring down that grill. Again, it's on a double hinge right here, so you can just pull that double hinge down so it's oriented correctly. Spin her little head, and then down here, turn the legs around 180 degrees, kick those feet out, and you have Arcee back in her robot mode. And let's go ahead and just put this on her back and give her that backpack, at least for now. So take these panels right here, spin those in, do that on both sides, collapse these in, and I'm going to take my handy dandy tool, and I'm going to reach under here and push this up. Makes life easier for me. And we'll come back here and we will install this. Plug it in, get it in on both sides. And once you have this, then you can just rotate this up, give her 180, and collapse that in. And then just line those tabs to those slots in there. Give them a nice push and squeeze them in. And there you have Arcee with her big old backpack. Let's give her a gun again. All right, so there you go. Now, we will very briefly talk about effects in this mode. There's not a whole lot that you can do with her here. Her gun does have effects compatibility. Just have to hang on to it so I can squeeze that on. So you can get a pretty nice pew-pew out of there. And I mean, if you really want to go crazy, I mean, you could. It's a tiny gun, right? But it's like the noisy cricket from Men in Black. You could really get crazy. Give me that gun for a second, Arcee. And you know, you could do that boom, and then you could do this boom, and then you could have some big boom noisy cricket action going on in a little gun. Just if you want to do it. And we'll put that gun back in. And again, back here on the back, you do have a couple of spots. So if you want her taking fire, you can do that. And you have some spots back here. So if you wanted to, I don't know, make it look like she was flying from her calf jets, you could do something like that, I suppose. And of course, on the bottoms of her feet, she does have these two ports right here. So you could give her that ability as well. If I can get it in there, there we go. And that one right there. So now you've got Arcee doing some Superman action there. Or Supergirl action, sorry. And taking off. So you can do that if you want to. Alright. Now let's talk about some comparisons. So the first thing that I want to mention, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the review, but it's no great loss, is she is Earthrise Arcee, 100% of the way. So if you already have Earthrise Arcee, there's zero difference here. The only difference is going to be the packaging. But weapon's the same, transformation, mold, there is zero difference between the two. And as evidenced, here you go. Here she is with my Earthrise Arcee. So there is no difference whatsoever. If you're satisfied with Earthrise Arcee and you don't want to buy Kingdom, you're not missing out on anything. So just thought I'd let you know that and get that comparison out of the way right now. Okay. Now let's talk about some other relevant comparisons, I suppose. What we can do just to represent the ladies, bring her in a little bit closer. Well, let's bring in another female lead from another movie or another universe. We'll bring in Shatter in the car mode so you can see how those two look together. And I guess it's a stretch calling Shatter a lady because she's a very, very mean robot. But it's neither here nor there. Okay. And next, we'll bring in from Kingdom, we'll bring in Black Arachnia so you can see how those two look together. Move her on out of the way. And I'm skipping universes again, but I need to do this. This is probably my favorite Arcee out of all that I have. It's the Transformers Prime Arcee. I just think she looks great. Yeah, again, she's an Arcee. She has a big backpack. But this one has wings. And I just think from a character standpoint, I really enjoyed this Arcee. All right. And let's bring in a male character from Earthrise. We'll bring in Sunstreaker so you can see how she looks next to him. Move him on out of the way. And let's go ahead and bring in a mold mate. Let's bring in Elita 1. And now they are, again, essentially the same except for a few small changes. The transformation engineering, all that is the same. Elita 1, surprisingly though, has less articulation up here at the shoulders due to these little horns right there in the shoulder. That limits her articulation, so Arcee has her beat on that. But everything else, let's bring your arm down. Everything else is essentially the same. And you can see back to back, backpack to backpack. Whoa, they're both getting a little bit of a lean on me. Easy, ladies. There you go. All right. And let's just leave Elita right there because next we will bring in from Siege, we will bring in Chromia. So that way you can see Chromia, Arcee, and Elita 1 all lined up there. And she is a different mold. You know, she's got a bunch of car hanging off of her. But there you go. All right, so do some final thoughts on her here. My final thoughts on Arcee, if you have the Earthrise mold and you're not worried about getting new packaging, then you can skip her. If you don't have the Earthrise mold, then yeah, pick her up. I think being a shell former, which is what Arcee essentially has always been, they pull this off pretty well, and I like the utilization here of at least this portion of the backpack for a hovercraft. Again, let's bring in her Earthrise counterpart so you can see her with that hovercraft again. So I think, that's good utilization of the backpack to try to do something else with it. Let's just go ahead and bring them all in just for fun. We'll put Sunstreaker back here. I love doing family photos. That's good enough for now. So yeah, if you don't have Earthrise, pick her up. I think she's a good addition, and she's a fun character. Great posability on this figure, and some good ingenuity for the backpack. So with that, I'll wrap the review up. I'll just say thanks for watching. I say this every time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. You know, if you like what we do here, give us a like, hit that subscribe button, leave us some comments. We're on YouTube and Rumble, so rumble.com or the Rumble app. Just look for SidKReilly. And we're also on Facebook now, so facebook.com/SidKReilly. Trying to post some videos there and get some pictures of the collection and you know, other fun stuff out on there. So if you get a chance, check it out. And again, hit that like, hit that subscribe, leave us some comments, let us know what you guys want to see and what we could be doing better. And with that, I'll wrap it up, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.